It's Boots, Bats and Balls, 10 till 12 Saturdays on Six Towns Radio.
Yes, you are listening to Boots, Bats and Balls on Six Towns Radio, and we've got special guests on the phone this morning. Tony Kelly. Tony, how are you, mate?
Hi, pal. Not too bad, thanks, mate.
Good, good. Where are you based nowadays? You're not local, are you now?
No, been in London quite a while now. Been in London over 20 years now. Yes, so I'm based down in North London, near Tottenham.
Near Tottenham. Are you still doing a bit of work for Tottenham, or has that moved on since there?
I've moved on since then. No, because obviously I've got a lot of engagements and a lot of work to do with Red Card. So my main focus now is basically pushing Red Card to where we want to be in the next 6 to 12 months, basically.
Okay, so Red Card. People will think, what's Red Card? That people that we have had you on before. We've talked about gambling addiction and things like that with you, and obviously your Stoke career in the past, but I think the key message you want to get across today really is about gambling addiction and what you're doing. You've written a book called Red Card, taking you through your football career, and you had very serious problems with gambling, and I think your initial signing on fee for Stoke just went out the window. Just talk us through that, mate. Yeah,
I mean, basically, what I'm doing now regarding Red Card is when I decided to put my story to print, it's basically a matter of after that. Where do I go now? What else can I do? I didn't just want to write a book and discuss obviously all about my gambling addiction and put that out in the public domain. Yes, one of the main reasons is obviously to raise awareness with the book and my story. But then it was a matter of how do I continue to raise awareness? So that's when I set up Red Card Gambling Support Project Limited. Got some guys together, got a good team together, and we've been working on it for about 8 or 9 months now. So we're now structurally set up in terms of basically going around to various locations, different sectors, discussing gambling addiction in detail together with our team of therapists, and basically just raising awareness and education about gambling addiction, because obviously I've been through a lot in terms of gambling addiction, but my personal view is that a lot more needs to be done. For example, me being able to talk about it, I'm fortunate that I can. I understand why people can't, but that's something that we need to change, because I think it's still a taboo subject. There's still a stigma attached, obviously, with the shame and the embarrassment. But that's why we find that we don't get a lot of people that talk about it openly. And the more people talk about it, the more that we can raise awareness. And I'm sure the more we can reduce the figures of gambling addicts in the UK, basically. And
basically, gambling becomes an addiction, and for people with a lot of money and a lot of time on their hands, they can fritter that money away very quickly, can't they? And pro footballers and other sports stars do that on a quite frequent basis, and that's what happened to you, isn't it, Tony?
Yeah, I mean, 25 years ago, we did have a lot of time on our hands. Obviously, we used to probably finish training and be out on the ground by 12:30, and unfortunately, those that had a gambling issue all those years ago. I mean, there's been hundreds, and I've read other stories since then, and I've had people contact me and ex-players contact me on my LinkedIn profile. Basically players that I never knew had a problem, but obviously have contacted me through what we're doing and been able to discuss it with me in private. But obviously, me not knowing that these players had an issue when I did, which is quite amazing, really. But now we've moved on in terms of professional footballers. It's at their fingertips now anyway, so they don't. It's not an issue or question of really of having too much time or after training, because they can do it 24/7. So it's out there. The accessibility is out there. And with Red Card, we're dealing with other issues in terms of we're actually going to Qatar, believe it or not. Qatar, and I nearly fell off my chair when I heard we're going to Qatar. But we're going to Qatar next week, which I'm proud and honoured to be part of and to be asked to discuss gambling addiction in sport. So it's not just football, it's sport in general. Obviously, society in general.
It isn't just footballers or any sports star that are affected by this. I mean, gambling's so easy now. There's apps on your phone. You can make a bet with 2 presses of a couple of buttons on your phone. You can fritter away a week's wages. And there's a story in one of your press pieces about a non-league player. I won't name. The name's out there if you want to look it up. But that actually stole £12,000 in jewellery and possessions and money from his girlfriend to keep this gambling addiction going. And that translates into normal life as well. There's lots of normal people that get into that trouble and into that cycle and struggle to get off that, don't Tony? What do you do to help them, Tony? What can Red Card do?
What we do mainly, the main part of our business and where we're coming from is basically doing our talks and presentations on the impact of gambling and basically raising awareness and trying to educate primarily young adults, because a third of the gambling addicts in the UK are now 18 to 24, so they're getting younger and younger and younger.
Yeah.
I mean, back in the day, if you walked into a bookies 25 years ago, generally most people over 30. It was the old men that were gambling.
It was, yeah.
You wouldn't really get 18-year-olds in the bookies gambling away 25 years ago. But now, as I said, times has changed, technology has come into play. So now we need to educate the young adults that are starting out in life. They're ruining their lives before it's even started. So that's what we do. We talk to everybody from football clubs to colleges to universities. As I said, we're doing this talk in Qatar. We're doing a talk in Coventry in a couple of weeks. We've got an addiction exhibition because I actually have my portrait there, which is another crazy thing. But that's part of an addiction theme in Notting Hill in London, which we're part of. So we're just basically spreading awareness all over the place, because the more we can do that, then the more people realise that the full impact of gambling. And when I say the full impact, I'm talking about the people that it affects, the people around you. Not just the financial loss, but the mental and the physical aspect of it. So there's a lot to it. It's not just about losing money.
Tony, you've obviously been through this and come out the other side, and I think you're one of the lucky ones that now and again you can still have a bet, and it's not an addiction anymore. So just tell us how you feel about that now in terms of actually going through that process and coming out the other side.
Yes, it's been a very, very, very long journey, and I think with a lot of gambling addicts, they call us recovering gambling addicts, just like recovering alcoholics. The most important thing is that you get to a point where your priorities are taken care of. You get to a position where you're not having a debt for the primary reason of financial gain. So it might be social, it might be just defence, it might be just a little form of entertainment, but it's not for financial gain and it's not controlling you. And it takes a long time to get to that point, especially when you've been an addict. Because obviously I used to just spend all my money and not worry about a mortgage or not worry about bills and not worry about paying this and paying that. So you have to get to that point, and I think you only get to that point with professional help, to be honest with you, which is why we've got a specialist team of therapists, which obviously what they do generally and mainly is get to the root of the problem with any individual, because anyone that becomes a gambling addict, more often than not, it actually started or the root of the problem can go way, way, way back to their childhood. It could be anything that triggered it. So it takes a long time to get to that point, and obviously, that you've got to be careful of. The other side of it is that you might not bet for, 2-3 years or whatever, and then you might just have a relapse, and that's another issue that people will be aware of.
Yeah, it is an addiction. It's similar to alcoholism in terms of the behaviours and the thought processes that trigger a failure, I'm guessing, and I guess it's treated in a similar fashion. One thing you are doing, you've got a prized possession that you're talking about auctioning to raise funds. We've mentioned this. I'm not sure if you're going to do this, by the way, but I know you've mentioned it. So I'm going to put you on the spot, really. I think you could raise quite a bit of money with the prized possession we talked about, and you're very famous for scoring an equalising goal at Anfield, but you also played in a Wembley final, didn't you, for Stoke City? And you're talking about you've still got the shirt from that game, haven't you?
Yeah.
And what are your thoughts? Are you thinking about sticking this up for auction in the local area and seeing how much we can raise for Red Card?
Yeah, I think we've taught, obviously, we're a company that's just been going a good few months, and we're still expanding and we're still building. We generate our own income at the moment, and still possibly 3 to 6 months before our funding comes in. So we had a talk about it, and then I thought to myself, well, if I can raise some funds for Red Card Gambling Sport Project, help us remain sustainable, etc., then it's a good idea. And I think in my own mind, obviously it was a special day at Wembley, probably the biggest day of my life, and I think in my own mind, if I go ahead with this, I would like it to go to somebody that's got Stoke in their blood, basically.
Yeah,
somebody that's
you're looking for
fanatic, to be honest.
You're looking for us to support you in terms of getting it out there, and obviously with all our Stoke City connections, making sure that it does go to someone that can treasure that memory, because there's only 11 of those shirts, isn't there? At the end of the day. Yeah,
exactly, and I know there'll be a fair amount of people out there that will remember the Wembley day. They don't come along too often, so there'll be a lot of Stoke supporters that will treasure that day, and if they've got another piece of memory to go with that day for themselves, and whether they pass it on to their grandchildren or their kids or whatever, then that would be nice. That's what I'd like to happen anyway.
Yeah, sporting memorabilia can hold great value, but our offer on the table then, Tony, is to help you to do that, and we'll talk off air afterwards if that's okay.
Yeah,
and
that's
just
fine.
look to set that up. Then I'm sure that people will get involved in that, and it's just the means and the methods. But we can talk about that later. That's a great offer, and I think great to see a piece of sporting memorabilia potentially coming back into the area.
Yeah, and it will come with a couple of signed copies of Red Card as well.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. Tony, I need to wrap up. Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah.
Enjoy your trip to Qatar next week. Keep in touch, mate.
Yeah,
and
we'll do, mate.
We'll obviously support you with a shirt. And, good luck with everything with Red Card.
Yeah, appreciate you having me on. Yeah, we'll keep in touch. Thanks a lot,
No
mate.
problem at all.